As usual, first thing I'm gonna do is save and go ahead and set up all of my folders and such. So out here, my Blender folder, where I've got way too much going on already. We'll do a new folder, week 3, game tokens, game pieces, game night, whatever you want to call it. And then again, I'm just putting the year on there because we've got a few week 3s. All right, new folders for exports. I promise we'll use this eventually. Renders, scenes, textures. Into our scenes folder, we'll just call it dice for now. Okay, so we're saved. And then I'm going to go just look at preferences really quick. We should also be seeing autosave on, which is nice. So right now I've got this set to every 2 minutes, 3 minutes. We'll set back to 2. This auto saves to a temp folder somewhere. We don't think about it most of the time, and that's okay. But every now and then you will push Blender to the max and crash it. Or you've got 30 other programs open on your computer and you crash it. And so it's nice to know that autosave is working for us in the background. So if you get a chance, just double check, edit preferences, and then on save and load, make sure autosave is on. So mine is saving 20 recent files, it looks like. Oh, that's for the save prompt. Relative path. I wonder where that's going to. So it's going somewhere, and auto saving every 2 minutes for me, because I just don't know what I'm going to get done in 2 minutes. So if we do a recover and auto save, if Blender crash, this is not part of this week's tutorial. I'm just trying to save you from damage. So here is a whole bunch of auto saves of different things I've had open. Some of these are auto saves for your projects as I was grading. So for me, it's just some app data local temp folder. So if Blender crashes and you open it back up and you're like, oh my gosh, I lost everything, try the recover and then see if your autosave is there. Maybe Blender helped you out and didn't delete everything. All right. So we're going to go ahead and keep the cube that we usually in all tutorials delete and remake. We're just going to keep it just for fun. So I've got a cube here. The first thing I want to look at before we even get too deep into making a nice D6 is how we're going to do that. That's Booleans. Booleans in programming is just true, false. Booleans in modeling is an A minus B, A plus B operation. So I've got my cube here, and I'm going to go ahead and add a sphere. So make a nice UV sphere, and let me just swell that up. So I'm going to scale this guy so he's sticking out like thusly. Okay. Now, actually, I'm going to make copies of these. So I'm just going to Shift D. And we'll move these over, and we'll see all the different things we can do. And I don't have my screen keys on. Let me turn those on. There we go. All right. So I'll start here in the middle. So I've got the cube, and I've got just a regular UV sphere kind of inside of it. And let me show you what Booleans can do. So with just the cube selected, I'm going to come down here to this wrench on the side for modifiers, and I'm going to add a Boolean modifier. And now I got to figure out which one that's in. Yep, so it's in generate Boolean. Okay, and we got 3 options. We've got an intersection, a union, and a difference. We'll start with the difference because that's the one that pops up first. So I've got my cube selected. I added the modifier to the cube, and now I need to pick operand B, the second thing, right? So I'm going to hit this. So I've got an object here saying what are we going to use for the other part of the Boolean. I've got a little dropper. I'll hit the dropper and say use this sphere. Okay, and we can see some stuff happened, but it's hard to tell what, because our operand just becomes part of a calculation. It doesn't go away. So let me just grab my sphere here that I use, and I'm going to hide it, and we'll see what happened to our cube. So that was difference. Yeah, and so now I've got a cube with a nice rounded out inside and holes all the way around on 6 sides. It's going to look even cooler if I go auto smooth. Hello, computer. Really? It's not going to do it. Do this. So maybe just because this is still on. So I can leave this here, and this is a live operation as long as this modifier is still sitting here. And so if I take this sphere now and I move it and then hide it again, it's going to change what my Boolean was. So let me undo that. Hide the sphere again. So go back to this cube, and so to save this where it's at, to make sure that this whatever this cool thing is that we like now. So I'm going to come over here to the Boolean, hit this drop down right here, and say apply it. Now I've got nothing else in my modifier stack. That went away, and that's been baked basically. So that is now what this cube is. Auto smooth should work now, exactly, yeah. And then it's gonna look kind of cool. Let me just change that back to what was it on 30 before. Okay, so that's a Boolean difference. Over here, we'll try this again. We'll try the other types. So add, I'm going to generate Boolean. We'll do a union. And then I'll select the thing that we're doing a union with. And it's that. And I'm just going to go ahead and bake it right away. So whatever we just did, I'm going to apply that. And then that should be sphere, what, 2? Get rid of that. And so this doesn't look different. If I go into tab and edit mode, we can see it literally took those shapes, and from the inside we can see that it just popped out on the cube. It just popped out the sphere parts. Especially see what's happening in wireframe mode here, right? So here, my cube has those parts extruded out in a sphere-like fashion all the way around, but the inside of the sphere is not there anymore. It's just that's the union. Okay, and so we can see over here. Here's the cube and a sphere intersecting each other. We can see the wireframe, what that looks like, so we can see kind of a good idea what that does. So a union just takes your stuff and says you're now joined together. And auto smooth that. Probably need to pull that down. Pull that angle down to 15. Looks kind of cool. All right, now the absolute crazy part. Now they're all funny. Okay, so I'll do the last one. So this is cube 1. Who's going to name these? So this guy, this cube was difference. And this cube was our union. This guy's going to be the intersect. Okay, so I've got him selected. We'll do the same thing. Add the modifier, generate, Boolean. We'll do the intersect. We'll go ahead and find our other object, hit that. And yeah, let me hide the other sphere. We'll see what it did. Whoop. Go into edit mode before baking it. It just goes back to being a cube. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bake this. So apply that. Auto smooth it. And so now we ended up with, I've actually seen some D6 that look like this. Right? Rounded all the way around a little bit too much and the nice flat edges. Actually, I think we've got the start of like a Mario Party dice. Have I seen this in Mario Party? Am I imagining that? Who knows? I hallucinate a lot. So anyway, and this actually looks exactly like if we just shove this inside of here, we've got two pieces to a hole. Those are Booleans. Booleans have gotten better over time. Everything's gotten better over time. Let me tell you about the Dark Ages. No, so we get generally pretty clean geometry out of it. Sometimes you can get really nasty geometry out of Booleans, and we'll get some of our Pac-Man stuff that we don't want to do. We'll get faces that don't look right because the Boolean just said, I did enough to make the shapes that you wanted, and it didn't bother cleaning up geometry. So Booleans in Blender are pretty safe. In some other packages can be damaging. Just use them sparingly. But that's what the Booleans do. And so we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to hide all these. First, I don't need the spheres. I'm just going to go ahead and grab all those and delete those with X. And then I'm going to poke all these guys in the eye, which means I'm going to hide them. The light, the union. And so now I'll actually start making a D6 with this. So really good dice, fun dice, have the pips kind of indented, right? So like little spheres that dig into the die for the pips. So that's what we're going to try and do. So good, make another cube. And that's cool. I'm going to call this die. IE, that's the singular of dice. It's a weird word, really, when you think about it. Okay, we'll go with it. So we use the die right there. I'm just going to go ahead and hit Tab, and the first thing I'll do is I'll just grab all the edges. Okay, so I've got all the edges selected. I'm just going to bevel those to get the nice rounded edges going on. Bevel the edges, drag those in. Eyeball it, and then we'll add the segments. Crank that up to 4. Nice rounded. Shouldn't hurt anybody. Well, depending on how fast you throw them. Okay. And I'll auto smooth it. So there. So auto smooth set at third. Huh? Oh, so right click, and yeah, it should be shown there. And then shade auto smooth, and then when it pops this up on the bottom, I've been changing the angle. So anything below that threshold gets smooth. Anything above? Below. Yeah, below that threshold gets smoothed out. So we got a nice rounded cube thing. We'll scale this later because if we brought this into our furniture scene right now, this die is, I believe, 2 meters. All right, so here we go. Yeah, so that's 2 meters. So that's yay tall. Good luck throwing that. Also, good luck not crushing your table and like smashing everyone you're playing with and just ruining the whole night. So we'll scale it later. It is a little safer to do Booleans with larger objects. If we shrunk this down to like a couple of millimeters and then tried to do Booleans with little tiny pips, we could confuse the software. I don't know if the current Blender would. I have in the past seen that problem. So anyway, we've got our 2 meter die that we'll scale later. He looks kind of cool. We need spheres. So I'm going to go ahead and add a UV sphere here. That is way too big. So we probably want that. Let's just try it this size. Scale it all the way down to like 0.25. We're just eyeballing right now. Probably go bigger than that. 0.5 is going to be too much. Add 5 of the 0.5 is just pushing it. Let me just go 0.4 and we're going to call it a day. All right, so that is 0.4. I'll go ahead and auto smooth that guy now. And let me just set him back to 0. And then the Z looks okay. What is 0 on there? So this will be the one side. And we want him at exactly 1, so he's exactly sticking out of my 2-meter cube. Okay, so I've got the side that's 1. What do we know about dice? Anyone? Where does the 6 go? The opposite side, yeah. Until I started making dice in 3D, I didn't really realize what was going on. So on your D6, if you take any side and its opposite side, that'll equal 7. So we got 1 and 6 across from each other, 3 and 4 across from each other, 2 and 5 across from each other. This level of observation is what you're going to get into as a 3D modeler. You're going to notice things you didn't notice before. You're also going to walk around looking like a moron. I got really into 3D modeling, and then I went to a SIGGRAPH conference in excuse me, in Boston as a student. And at that time, I was doing a lot of 3D modeling of buildings and architectural renderings, and so I was just walking around Boston like, I can strew that out and bevel that, and I can make that, and yeah, so anyway. It's a side effect. Warning, it's a side effect of what we're working on in here. You might walk around looking like a moron. I mean, a very observant person. All right, so we're just going to even call this the 1. And I'm just going to use this guy and his auto smooth self already and his size. And I'm just going to start duplicating him and setting him up. All right, so Shift D, enter. So we need to move him to the opposite side. So he needs to be at -1. -1. There we go. And then we need to move him over. So probably about there. We're just going to start eyeballing, guessing. So if we got him at 0.4, then again, we'll duplicate this guy to a -0.4. Both, so Shift, select both of those, Shift D, enter, and then I'll move them up this way. And feel about right. 0.5, let's just try 0.5 on the X. Those two, Shift D, enter. Move them down this way, and we'll put them at -0.5. I like even-ish numbers just because 0.5, not -5. In my mind, they're easier to reckon with. So, all right, I've got the 6, got the 1. Now I just need to make pips all the way around the other sides. So I'll start with my 1 over here. Duplicate that again. So let's see. Be at 0 on the Z, and then like we'll go to 1 on the Y. So he's popping out this side. All right. Guess it could be anything. We'll make this the 3. So we'll do the 3 and the 4 along this side. So he's already positioned. 3 is just a nice diagonal ramp up the side. I'm just going to keep duplicating. Shift D, enter to move it into place. And then I think we're going to call that -0.4 and 0.4. Sure, you can go out farther if you want. Just going to keep them closer to the center. Again, Shift D. And we'll move him down. So yeah, I like to start with a more organic, just grab it and move it, and then using my transform, I'll clean up the exact location. So -0.4 there, and and we've got the side that's our 3s. Let's grab the center one. Shift D, enter. He needs to go to a -1 on the Y, we already know. Zoom in on him, roll out. There we go. So we're on the other side, and this needs to be the 4s. I guess we're going to go 0.4 all the way around. So 0.4 here, 0.4, Shift D, enter. Yeah, I can get a little monotonous. -0.4 there. Both of them, Shift D, pull those down to a -0.4 on the Z. Four sides. We'll do a what with this later? Union, intersect, difference. No one knows. Difference. Yeah, I want these pips to go in. Yeah, if they're sticking out, I think that would really affect how it rolled. Might bounce a little weird depending on which side it hit. All right, we'll do this one more time. I like this guy already being in the center, so I'll just use him. So Shift D on this guy. We can go to 0 on the Y. And then we'll go to 1 on the X. And he's popping out this side. 1, and then the 3. And then actually this guy, it looks like, according to the die I'm looking at here, should be the 2. And then 5 on the other side. So move him up. And we'll keep the same numbers. We'll do 0.4 and 0.4. Duplicate him, Shift D, enter. 0.4, -0.4. Ready to go. Moving, yeah, too far again. I didn't hit the decimal. And -0.4. Nope, he wants to be on the 0.4. I'll get it in a minute. I really will. There we go. So that needed to be 0.4 on the Y, -0.4 on the Z. So I've got the 2s. Okay. Actually, let me just do this. I'm going to grab them both, duplicate them, move them over to the other side. They should be at -1 on the X. Might want to move those farther. We'll see. Got a start of those. Shift D, duplicate each of those. Now just kind of move them over individually. And I need one more for the center. At 0 and 0. All right. Wow. We made a lot of spheres. Okay. Now here's what I'm going to do. Because a Boolean is how many operands? We get two, like an A minus B, right? Or A plus B or whatever. So I'm going to take all these guys here. And I started with the 1. I named it weirdly. So all of my pips are now 1 through 1.020. Grab all of those guys. So I've got a and I'm going to join them. So it could be Control J or right click and join. And now that's one weird object. Okay, so we've got our thing. I'm just going to go ahead and call them pips. We got our die. before I do much else, I'm going to start coloring these. So one thing that sometimes we find we get a shortcut out of when it works right is the colors of our operands will stay where they're at after we do the Boolean. So I'm going to do, first we'll just do a regular white die. So I'm going to go ahead and just make sure he's white and not gray. So we'll add a new color here. White, yep, that's sure enough white. You can be brighter. And then on my pips, I'll go ahead and make those a dark color. We can go black, we can go dark purple, keep it ACU colors. So make a new purple. And if you've got a certain color you're looking for, here's something that I Google way too many times. I'm a little embarrassed about it. Yeah. All right, and so I can go find the exact color. Obviously, I should remember this by now. You know, it's 4F2170. We didn't know that. All right, so I can grab this exact color of the purple that I'm wanting and just go into Blender and say, you know what, that's the color I want. So in the hex, let's paste that in. Now we've got official ACU purple pips. Before I go much further, so we need to do 3 sets of these. So I've got all set up. I've got my die, I've got my pips. I'm going to make some copies. So Shift D and Enter. I'm just going to move this other set over here. Do it again. And what you need to do for the assignment is I want 3 different color schemes on 3 different nice rounded pips die. So we'll start with white. Or we can get the official ACU grays and whites. I think, yeah, white is just white in our case. So, got that. Let's just make sure this works. So I'm on my die. I'm going to go to my little wrench menu, add the modifier. So generate, Boolean, difference, and I will select this set of pips. And then I will hide that set of pips to see what happened. Oh, and it didn't retain my purple. Just sad. Maybe it will after I bake it. Who knows? There's other options here. So here we go. Materials. I'm going to transfer materials. There we go. Now I don't have to go and recolor all those faces. So in the Boolean operations here, material transfer, and it's gonna hold my purple colors. So if I go ahead and apply this, I can look at this die now. It did some cool stuff, right? We've got our nice faces. It's nice, smooth inside. We kept our auto smooth. It looks good here in Blender. This face right here, face not even a mother could love. No, that's not right. This face doesn't work. Okay, so we've got these concave bits in here, and so if I upload this to my Sketchfab account, we're going to see weird tearing across here. So the last thing I want you to do is find these problems. It looks like all of these faces, these big faces, are going to be problems. That one's got some concave Pac-Man look to it. That one does. All of these guys. So I'm just going to grab these. And funny enough, there's a nice safe face in the middle there. We'll leave that one alone. They all got problems. So I'm shift clicking on all these guys. Got all the big faces that are problematic. And I can do it via some stuff up here. Will the right context menu do it? Yep. So if I just right click, I can come down here to triangulate faces, or we can go through some menus up top. And so I'm going to triangulate. So this is it's gonna make a lot of weird looking faces, but they're safe, right? A triangle is always safe. Triangle can't fold in on itself. So it looks uglier than it did, like visually with all the lines, but this is actually a much better layout. So now that's safe, and I can upload that to Sketchfab without it looking funky. Tab out of that. So there's one set of Boolean die, and then I'll let you, if you copied and pasted, or if you're even trying to follow along, doing this later, you can set up your colors on your other bits before you do your Boolean. Okay, let me detour really quick to Sketchfab. So I've got a model on my Sketchfab that I've left there that's ugly, it's terrible, it's awful, but I want to show off what things look like. So we'll go to my models and show you what these concave faces can look like. It's somewhere in here. There we go, this guy. All right, overall, looks pretty good. I'm just going to maximize this. We get the full effect here. I've got some cool like normal maps and scratches and stuff on him. He's not quite ready to be in the next Lego movie, but he's all right. But look at the back here where I did some Booleans and didn't clean up the faces. So look at all that weird artifacting and tearing going on. That's what we just fixed on our dice. So I'm going to go ahead to the model inspector here, and we'll look at the lines. Right? Look at this face right here. That's kind of what we just fixed. So the problem is this is one face with a hole in it, so it's concave, that Pac-Man mouth that we're talking about we don't like. And this one too, and we got it all the way around on here. This face, and the four faces around these two holes. And that's what it looks like everywhere else. Blender will lie to you and tell you that was beautiful. We love it. Blender does its own triangulating stuff. And it doesn't care if we've got those concave faces. But if you leave the concave faces and you upload it anywhere else, Sketchfab, put it into Unity, anything else we're going to do with it, you're going to get that weird tearing. It's possible even if you're doing an animation with this. So I tried to do an animation with this Lego guy. Depending on the rendering software I use to render that, these tears and these weird bits of broken faces would probably show up. And definitely then he would not be allowed in the Lego movie at all. Like they'd be like, that's disgusting, get it out of here. So anyway, that's what we just fixed in Blender by triangulating all those weird faces. All right, so those are Booleans. So that's one of the things we wanted to cover this week, and we just did it. Look how cool we are. All right, these dice are definitely better than what we're gonna end up with on the next round. So these are the nice smooth indented pips, super cool. I'm just going to go ahead and hide all these things, and I'll finish Booleaning those later. Now we're going to make a simpler die and look at some UV editing. This is also something you're required to make for this. So I want 3 individual die with cool color schemes in the Booleans, and they look really nice. This next one's ugly. We're only going to do one of them. So we're going to go add mesh, cube. And the next thing I want to do, no, I'm done. I'm done modeling. There's my die. We're going to texture this. So we're going to put dots on this guy via Photoshop. But one thing I want to point out is the UV editing. So, and we looked at this when we did our tables, right? We get this cool like cross shape. That is our, I didn't bring that, did I? That's our UV edit of this box, right? So if you imagine it being a cardboard box, this is how it unfolds. I'm going to go ahead and take all of this, hit A. I'm going to go to image, UV, where am I at? There we go. So on the UV, with everything selected, I'm going to export the UV layout. All right, didn't change anything. We're going to keep this UV for this guy, but I'm using this as a stencil. So I'm going to pop this up in my textures folder. Yes, sir.
What's a stencil?
You ever a coloring page? These are the lines we're going to color inside of. We're going to put it in Photoshop, and I'm going to know where all the things are at. Yeah. All right. So so I can say either all UVs, modified, whatever. This is going to be cube.png because that's the name of my object. I didn't rename them. So I'm saving this stencil, this layout, this coloring page for my die. And 1024 is fine. We don't have to go bigger than that. You want to go 4K on our ugly die? Go nuts. It's 4096. So I'm going to go ahead and just all UVs just in case. I'm going to export this layout into textures folder. All right, open Photoshop. Wait 10 minutes. Have a drink. We're getting there. There's a reason I use this mug. Yeah, that's the next thing. Don't get ahead of me. Sorry. Yeah, it's basically that. So for right now, we're doing die. So I'm going to go ahead and open. And let me see. I'm in the wrong. So Blender, week 3, game tokens. In my textures folder, I've got this cube.png. So I'm going to open that up. All right, Control H. I don't know why it shows up with this grid. So I've got this layer here that is the stencil, that is the UV layout. I don't want to export this when I make my texture later, because then I'll end up with weird lines all the way around. But this is for coloring inside the lines. So we'll do a quick texture here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer here. I'm going to name this layer stencil, outline, whatever you want to call it. Move that up. And I'm going to flip over here. I'm going to use black and white. And this will be similar to what we did with the wood grain for the wood fibers. So I'm going to go to filter and render, and this time I'm going to do clouds. I just get this weird, since I have black and white selected, I just get this weird cloud pattern, which can be the base of what we're doing. I want my pips to be dark, and that's already got some darkness to it. So I'm just go ahead and I'm going to set this to like a white and a gray, not all the way to black. And let me do another filter, clouds. Yeah, it's lighter. So we got some pattern to it, but it's not going to overpower my Photoshop pips. And here we can see what sides are going to be opposite of each other. So I'm just going to go ahead and make some pips. So let me zoom in. 200, not 20, please. There we go. So I'm going to use my circle select tool. Go ahead and make another layer here. I'm going to hit this guy to go back to black and white. And then I'm going to hold down shift to keep it a nice perfect circle. And this is going to be ugly because I don't want to spend all day in Photoshop. So I'm just going to start slapdashing this guy together. So like 58, sure. We're going to go with that. I'm going to right click. I'm going to fill this up with my foreground color, which I set back to black. Now I've got a pip. Control D to deselect. And I'm going to start moving this guy around. And oops, I moved the stencil. Control Z to undo that. I'm going to go over here to my stencil and lock him. Where's my stuff? There we go. Not that. So I'm going to lock my stencil. So I'm going to hit this padlock here on that, and I really want to work on layer 3. So I can move this pip around, and Photoshop will kind of try to center it in the document, and I'm going to have to eyeball the rest. So that'll be my 1, and I've got to remember the correct shortcuts. Is it Alt? Copied. Control, Shift. Okay, I keep grabbing the wrong thing. So I'm just going to hide the stencil or get it out of the way. And so with this selected, if I hit Alt and then try to move it, I'm making a copy of it. So I'll make a copy of it. Let me re-engage my stencil here. All right, so now layer 3 copy is this pip. And if I can move him on the opposite side of this, I need 6. So I'm just going to start eyeballing these guys into place. Get out of here, you stupid stencil. All right. I'll move him underneath us. Yeah, maybe that'll work. Move the stencil under my pips. Maybe I can move some stuff around. Okay, so Alt, grab the pip. There we go. Hold down Alt and then click and drag. I'm just getting copies of this. We are not lining this up as prettily as we did in Blender. We're just trying to rough it. Okay. So hold down Alt, click, drag. I'm just getting copies. Copies of copies. And then, so that's 2, and so we need 3 and 4. You don't even have to use circles, right? Use different logos, different shapes, whatever. But there I've got my dice, all right? So I'm gonna hide the stencil layer. I do not need that in my export. So there's the texture we need for our die based on the UV layout of that cube. So File, I'm gonna go to Export, Quick Export as PNG. And it's in the wrong week again. So week 3, game tokens 2024 in the textures folder. I'm gonna call this D6, texture. Cool. All right, so we got that saved. The other thing you can do, probably a good idea, I recommend, I'm going to go ahead and save this with all of its layers and ridiculousness as a PSD file in the same folder. So this will be D6, D4, D6. That'll be our layout. We need to come back in here because we decide later on we want these to look better or change the colors of the pips or whatever. We've got our layers set up. All right, back to Blender. So that's all we need to do with the UV. I'm going to go back to layout. And here we go, adding textures. We've done this a little bit. Go ahead and rename the guy so he's a blocky D6. Give them a new material. Call the material D6, and then we just go find that color. So if I hit base color here, I'm going to set it to an image texture, and then I'll use the folder here to open up our texture we just created. So textures, D6 texture. There we go. Since we didn't take a lot of time, it doesn't look that great, but that's all we need for the D6. Side note on that. So we are going to do, as my coffee cup suggests, I'm going to squirrel a little bit on the cube unwrap, and we're going to do a question block. So we've got that. The question block I'm going to do just as an example. I think we've got this set to, if you decide you want to make a question block, it's like 2 extra credit points. So we're going to be doing some different UV mapping here. So on the D6, what we did made sense. All 6 sides need to be different, right? What about a question block? Okay, mine's a little bit different because it's got a hole in the top for coffee. But like most of the sides are the same, right? So, great, my coffee got cold while I was waiting. All right, move this guy over, and then we'll hide him. We'll make one more cube. So, while we're harping on UV, at UV layouts, we'll do this. I'm going to make a new cube. We're going to go ahead and call him question block. But I want the UV layout for this guy to be different. So I'm going to come over here to UV editing, and I'm going to use my face select here, and I'm going to unwrap every face individually, and what that's going to do is it's going to stack them all on top of each other. So all the faces will get the same texture. So if I've got one face selected, I'll just hit U and unwrap, boom, we see that filled up the whole thing. I'm going to do that for all of them. U, unwrap. Actually, I'm going to deliberately just do this on the 4 sides. So U, unwrap, and then the last one, U, and then unwrap. And now my top and my bottom, we will move later. I'll leave that for now. But for the most part, right, on all my sides, I'm using the full texture. I don't need to export a stencil of the whole cube. We know we're going to use the whole cube. So I'm just going to go back to Photoshop. I'll make a new 1024 by 1024 is fine. I'll go ahead and create that. And we're going to rough this guy, or we can probably find a really nice image online. So let me see, background. I'm going to go ahead and make that yellow. All apologies to Nintendo. Don't shut down my YouTube channel for this, please. Thank you. Just going to paint some yellow in there. Okay, I'll make a new layer. Depending on the version of Mario you're playing, it looks like a darker color in the corners for the little rivets. Sure. Make this darker. Same thing as we did with the pips. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold down Shift, make a circle here. Right click. I'm going to fill that with my darker foreground color now. And I'm going to use Alt and my Move tool to make copies of this. Pop these in the corners. With more apologies to Nintendo, I may or may not have the Mario font already on my computer. Just see if I can get a nice white question block. Or a question mark out of this. Yeah, this blocky one looks like it'll work. Whatever that is. Yeah. Crank all that all the way up, and let me just see if I can type in. Huh. Get out of here. I know you're trying to help, but you're not doing it. What? I scaled it the wrong way. Absolutely. There we go. Okay, you know what? Delete the layer. Start over. We didn't like this guy. Start a new text layer. What? All right. Weird looking question mark. I can just change the font size here, or I can scale it up. Let's just pretend I want it to be a 600-point font. Move it. That actually looks enough not like the question mark that I don't think Nintendo's coming after us now, which makes me hate it. Let me try a different font. It's another example of me getting lost in the details. This is not the point of the lesson, but I'm having fun. These are all terrible. We'll just deliberately make it bad and move on. How about that? Perfect. There we go. Looks a little more Digital Circus than it does Mario, so now everyone can come at me. Go ahead and scale that up. So I'm going to just use the edit, transform, and scale. Make them bigger. Move them into place. This is terrible. Terrible in a way that I kind of like. And then I'm going to double click on this layer guy here. And I'm going to do an inner shadow so it makes it look like this is indented into it a bit. All right. Absolutely terrible. So I'll save this. We'll pretend we like it just for the sake of moving on. And export this as bad QBlock PNG. And we'll go back to Blender. Should have saved in the same spot. Shoot. Let me make sure I did that right. Did that save in the folder that I'm looking for? Yes. Awesome. All right. And save my terrible file as well. So I'll save my Photoshop file in there. Not to Creative Cloud. Stop it. Okay, so back in Blender. Here we go. I'm going to go back to my Layout tab here. We've already got my material showing, so I'm going to make a new material. Again, on the base color, I'm going to use an image texture. I'm going to hit my folder, go find the thing I just created. Which is upside down. I don't know why. It is. On part of them. Okay, that's good. We can use this. All right. Looks good from this side-ish. These other ones we need to flip. So I'm going to go back to my UV editing tab. And if I pull this over far enough, I've got the same circles. So I can get a preview of the material. There we go. Pull that back. And now I'm just going to fix some things. So this side's right. I'm going to say this side's right. This one I need to do something with. So got that selected. That should be it. And I'm going to use my rotate tool over here. There we go. And I'm rotating it around. All right, I'll grab this face, same thing. I'm selecting the face over here, and then when I get over to the UV side, I'm hitting A, and that grabs the thing. And so I'm just going to again rotate it to close enough, and then perfectly done. All right, now let's do the tops and the bottoms. So this, if we'd done like the cloud texture or any kind of like texture all the way through, then we'd have a scale problem. But since the background of this is a solid yellow, this is going to work. So I'm going to grab this face here, and I'm just going to move it where it's in an all yellow area. This guy, I'm going to hit A, so I've got the whole thing. I'm just going to move it down, probably the same area. Right, and you can see as we're moving these UVs around, if I decided I liked that, I could put this over here and put a big dot on the bottom, whatever. Yeah, we can build a game around this. We'll make this happen. So there we go. So I just moved that into place, and we did a simple but manual UV on this, and it kind of works. I'm gonna go back to layout here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and fix that for my own well-being. That question mark does not look right to me, but it worked. I've got the Photoshop file saved. So that's UVs. So we did all the things. We did a really nice Boolean die. We did 3 of those. We will do 3 of those. We did our blocky D6, which I guess is sitting over here. And we did something else that we did a custom UV unwrap on because the 4 sides needed to be the same. Now I could have made my job a lot harder, right? And I could have done the question block the same way I did this, and then tried to do the same size question mark and move it all around and duplicate all those sides. So this one would have worked. We would have more control here in Photoshop of which way the question mark was going. But it was just as easy to do it once and then flip those UV faces around, and it all worked. All right? Kind of makes sense to everybody? Who hates this class? Ready to drop out? Just Chase. All right, that's fine. I need a new research assistant if anyone's looking for a job. This guy. All right, so let's do this. We've got 17 minutes left. We can end it there, I think. Let's do a little bit more. So these look good-ish, and we've got either colors or textures on them, but we can make them look better. So I'm going to come over here. We'll start with this guy right here. All right, so he's kind of the basic material. He's flat. I want to do some material settings down here. So I added a color to him. That was all cool. But there's more we can do. So we can make this guy a little more metallic, a little more shiny. So if I just grab this guy here and pull this up, if I go too far, it gets really weird. Some point, right? And so it makes it a little more shiny, a little more reflective and specular. So I can make it more metallic that way. We can pull roughness down. Right? These are all things we can play with here just in the color space of the base color. And then we've got other things we can do here. So in my specular tab especially, I can really go nuts and play with IOR levels. So it's index of refraction. I can play with tint. So it's got a white tint by default. I can just change this tint without changing my texture to like red, blue, whatever. Let's go red. It's easier to see for now. And that just kind of changes the way when the light hits it. Looks like my pips look more red. Play with these. We can give it more of a sheen, give it a clear coat. Play with all these things here, and you can make your objects shinier, sparklier, poppier. The other thing you can do, I'll point this one out, is if you don't want to do the pips, but you want to do numbers, we can do a numbered D6. So this one's got 1, 2, like literally the numbers on it. So for this one that's textured, do what you want on it. It still needs to be a D6, but that can be numbers. That can be, instead of the round circles, use Sonic's head. I don't care, whatever. Like just put something cool in there. And then the question block is extra. So yeah, play with making them shinier. And again, we cannot drop these 2-meter die into our room right now because they'd fill up the whole room. But we'll play with some more stuff on Thursday. We'll make the sorry piece. We'll do the meeple, and then we'll try to bring these into our rooms and scale them down so we can have a nice game night on our cool tables that we made last week. Yeah, no, yeah. I'm still debating. You know what? Let's get a start on the sorry piece. We're here. We've got like 14 minutes left. So I'm going to hide these guys. And the last thing that we're going to look at is going to be, I hit the light, didn't I? The sorry piece. So proportional editing. So we're going to get a head start on that. So here we go. I'm going to make a sphere, UV sphere. And we'll scale him later. He's going to be way bigger than all of our other stuff to start off with. And that's okay. Materials here. I'm going to auto smooth them already. And let me see what I want to do here. I'm going to go to tab into edit mode, and I'm going to grab a bunch of stuff from the bottom here. So I'm just going to grab this vertex at the very bottom, and I'm going to start hitting Control and plus on my number pad. And I'm going to get to like maybe three segments out on this, and I'm going to hit X and delete those. So I'm going to delete those faces. And now I'm going to grab this edge right here that we just deleted. I'm going to select the edge loop so it's all the way around. I'm going to hit F. And it's going to fill in the face on there. So now I've got, we could have done this with a Boolean. It would have been a lot more work. Now I've got a sphere with a flat bottom. Okay? And so I'm going to move that out. I'm going to extrude it. Scale. There's my extrude tool. There it is. Okay. It went away on me. All right, so we'll do it again. So we're going to extrude this down roughly yay. All right, we're just going to guesstimate about there. Let's just say we're going to come down 6 meters. And then I need a lot more cuts on this. So come in here. We came down 6 meters, which might be enough. We'll see. This is another one of those things that it looks a little bit different every year, and it's okay. All right, I'm going to grab an edge here. Get off of my extrude. Zoom in on that. And I want to select the edge ring. So I've got all these edges around, and I'm going to make a whole bunch of cuts in here. So we go edge, and oh, clicked off. There we go. Edge and subdivide. Let's see, what's the number of cuts I can put in here? By default, it'll let me scroll up to 10. I think I can type in more. So if I type in 20, sure, let's go 30. Let's be crazy. All right, so I'm subdividing that 30 times. So I've got 30 cuts all the way down, and then we get into magic. Okay, so we've got this cool thing, looks like a Lego wand of some sort, and I've got cuts in here for what I'm about to do. So proportional editing is kind of cool. So I'm going to grab probably the second segment up. So right here, I'm going to grab this edge loop. So select loop. And I'm going to scale it, but with proportional editing on, I should get everything else I need out of this. So it's this guy right here. I'll turn that on, and there's all these different ways that it will handle the proportion. We'll just leave it on smooth for now. And I'll use the scale tool. And as I start pulling in and out, you can see it's affecting some things that are close to it. I'm going to scroll on my wheel as I'm scaling out, and I'm scrolling downwards on my wheel. And it's starting to look like what I want it to look like. So there we go. There's your sorry token. I scaled one set of loops with proportional editing on. It's on smooth. As I was scaling, I was using my scroll wheel to affect how far away it was impacting that, and I ended up with this shape. There's one more thing off our list. So we need 2 of those in your scene of different colors. Red, blue, green, yellow, ACU purple, whatever. Cool? All right. Sweet. Now we've got so much less to do on Thursday. I feel better about it. All right. The magic part. Hit Control S. Save your scene. For the love. Do that. All right. We'll scale all these, finish them up, and put them in our game night room with our table on Thursday. I'm done if you're done. Questions? No? Great. Awesome. There it is.